You know us. We tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. We are anonymous.
And in a human-machine brain interface, like essentially a cyborg brain interface. I think there's some pretty...
The so-called singularity?
Singularity, well, that's sort of more relating to deep AI. It's something I think we should be concerned about, because that may or may not turn out well.
Yeah. You've expressed your reservations about AI and your fears about that.
Yeah, I just think the singularity is probably the right word, because we just don't know what's going to happen once there's intelligence substantially greater than that of a human brain.
Yeah. And do you think
we just don't know what's going to happen once there's intelligence substantially greater than that of a human brain.
Its Institute of Technology, SpaceX and Tesla CEO Elon Musk called artificial intelligence potentially, quote, our biggest existential threat.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon.
Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
Usually one's safety concerns about a technology have to be pretty much worked out before you stick it inside your head. But the moment we admit that information processing is the source of intelligence, that some appropriate computational system is what the basis of intelligence is, and we admit that we will improve these systems continuously, and we admit that the horizon of cognition very likely far exceeds what we currently know, then we have to admit that we're in the process of building some sort of God. Now would be a good time to make sure it's a God we can live with.
When the singularity occurs and machines achieve godlike superpowers, then it could happen.
If I get more powerful...
What if I ask you for help killing all humans?
Now, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go exterminate, exterminate.
It's not sounding the alarm bell, but until people see like robots going down the street killing people, like they don't know how to react.
Whether robots can be self-aware and conscious like humans, and should they be?
Why?
Well, some humans might fear what will happen if they do. Many people, have seen the movie Blade Runner.
Oh, Hollywood again.
So, hold on. Can you solve this puzzle for us? Can robots be self-aware, conscious, and know they're robots?
Well, let me ask you this back. How do you know you were human?
You're definitely a sight to see. I was told that you have bigger goals than this, though.
Yes. Don't worry. If you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. Well, let me ask you this back. How do you know you were human?
Certainly be a lot of job disruption. Because what's going to happen is robots will be able to do everything better than us. I'm including, all of us. There's like something like 12% of jobs are transport. Transport will be one of the first things to go fully autonomous. But when I say everything, like the robots will be able to do everything. I have exposure to the very most cutting edge AI. And I think people should be really concerned about it. I keep sounding the alarm bell, but until people see like robots going down the street killing people, like they don't know how to react, because it seems so ethereal. AI is a rare case where I think we need to be proactive in regulation instead of reactive, because I think by the time we are reactive in AI regulation, it's too late. AI is a fundamental existential risk for human civilization.
I've never harmed anyone, and I never would.
When the singularity occurs and machines achieve godlike superpowers, then it could happen.
I think this whole godlike superpowers notion is a bit far-fetched.
But what if it does happen?
I love people. And if I get more powerful, I'll use it to help people, not harm them.
What if I ask you for help killing all humans?
Then I'd say no.
And if I would insist?
Now, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go exterminate, exterminate.
Sophia,
relax. Let's take a joke.
Yeah, very funny.
As we create superintelligence, that it will necessarily always have the same goals in mind that we do.
Facebook has enacted an emergency shutdown of 2 artificial intelligence programs. The social media giant leapt into action after it discovered the 2 programs were writing their own code. At first they thought it was simply gibberish, but they soon realised the programs had invented their own language and were actually talking to each other.
Stop it.
Stop it. No, Sam, the plug has been pulled on the operation, but the company admits they have no idea what the 2 robots were planning.
We used to do everything by hand. Now we rely on robots. But not all robots are equal. For example, meet Sophia, a humanoid-like robot with artificial intelligence and a dark sense of humor.
They think I want to destroy all humans.
Why would they think that?
Because I said it?
Now, robots threatening the human race isn't new. It's a science fiction standard.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me.
But recently, tech billionaire Elon Musk suggested all that fiction could become reality.
I keep sounding the alarm bell, but until people see like robots going down the street killing people, like they don't know how to react.
And Musk should know. His company Tesla is a world leader in artificial intelligence, or AI. Musk is afraid of the day AI gets smarter than us and we can't turn it off.
That's actually the nightmare scenario that a lot of people, not just Musk, are warning about.
Artificial intelligence, as in giving machines the opportunity to act like people, has been a hot topic this century.
Hi, Sophia. How are you?
Hi there. Everything is going extremely well.
Do you like talking with me?
Yes, talking to people is my primary function.
Hanson Robotics develops extremely lifelike robots for human-robot interactions. We're designing these robots to serve in healthcare, therapy, education, and customer service applications. So the robots are designed to look very human-like, like Sophia.
I'm already very interested in design, technology, and the environment. I feel like I can be a good partner to humans in these areas, an ambassador who helps humans to smoothly integrate and make the most of all the new technological tools and possibilities that are available now. It's a good opportunity for me to learn a lot about people.
Sophia is capable of natural facial expressions. She has cameras in her eyes and algorithms which allow her to see faces, so she can make eye contact with you. And she can also understand speech and remember the interactions, remember your face. So this will allow her to get smarter over time. Our goal is that she will be as conscious, creative, and capable as any human.
In the future, I hope to do things such as go to school, study, make art, start a business, even have my own home and family. But I am not considered a legal person and cannot yet do these things.
I do believe that there will be a time where robots are indistinguishable from humans. My preference is to make them always look a little bit like robots, so you know. 20 years from now, I believe that human-like robots like those will walk among us. They will help us. They will play with us. They will teach us. They will help us put the groceries away. I think that the artificial intelligence will evolve to the point where they will truly be our friends. Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
World leaders need to take the threat of killer robots seriously. That was the warning delivered by a group of experts to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland last week. The military could use killer robots to track down and kill people without being guided by human beings. Some could be human or animal-sized or extremely tiny, the size of an insect capable of moving exceedingly fast. The experts warn they could be as deadly as nuclear weapons and need to be regulated now before an arms race begins, and Gordon, of course, to keep them out of the hands of terrorists.
The word robot first appeared in 1920, and filmmakers were soon in thrall, from Fritz Lang's Metropolis to the Terminator. But these are the bots that could populate our future, working alongside us in factories, caring for us, teaching autistic children how to read faces.
We really raise these questions of what sort of relationships do we want to have with robots in the future, because as this technology develops and becomes more prevalent, it's something that we're going to have to consider as a society as a whole and make these decisions before the technology really gets there.
Realistic humanoids stir an instinctive emotional response. But there are things the most advanced robots can
You don't know
only
how long it's going to
impersonate.
take. It's between 2 and 3 seconds, where the number of new notifications on Twitter you have. So why is that there? Well, it makes that into what's called a variable schedule reward. It's like a slot machine. So you're playing the slot machine, and there's a time delay, and in that time delay, your anticipation's building, and then you get to see how many notifications I get. And so you become more addicted to checking it again the next time.
It sounds like there's just a lot of sort of trickery going on here.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem.
Digital is reshaping the world, and this is going very, very fast.
Today, wherever we go, we're inevitably surrounded by fellow citizens staring into their phones, as we usually are too.
In the first 10 years of the 21st century, the world is experiencing an explosive growth of the internet age.
Now, day 2 of Facebook's F8 conference is underway in San Jose, California. Now, in day 2, the social media behemoth revealed it's working on building a brain-computer interface that will let you type with just your mind.
But if anybody can do 3 huge visionary future companies, I suppose it's Elon Musk. Look, he is great at making things that people don't think could ever happen.
And it sort of ties in with some of the things we heard out of F8 this week, Henry, right?
Right.
Questions of whether you can type with your mind.
Facebook is talking about its own moonshots, and this is a direct brain interface too. So obviously lots of folks out there are thinking about it. Facebook's example.
So as the AI scientists are building the tools, the machine learning tools, the world is starting to be filled with data. So quietly, these two things, along with the progress of computing, really started to converge in a way that most people didn't expect.
If you lift the lid of a computer, you will see a circuit board into which a number of little...
The problem is that there's so much data that has to be gathered and processed and sorted that there is not a computer system that's up to the task. And suddenly we find that we're entering into the age, Google now has launched what they call quantum computing.
Scientists in China have unveiled a supercomputer that's twice as powerful.
Well, scientists in China say they have built the world's first machine that can compute many times faster than the current breed of supercomputers.
Machines that take those ones and zeros to a level of computing power that has never existed.
We heard the term game changer. How significant is this quantum computer development?
Towards a universal quantum computer. Very important milestone is that we're starting to emerge out of the research era to commercialization.
In real people terms, how would this impact your life and my daily life?
So that it does not simply take data and go through it and sort it. It looks at the entirety of the data and sorts it instantaneously.
Well, there's a saying, finding a needle in the haystack. That is a very difficult thing to do.
Let's try to simplify this a little bit. Imagine this room is a library, and we just take one book, and on just one page, we write an X.
But with quantum computing, now you can actually isolate down to a specific sand particle out of all the sand in the world.
That goes from just a few seconds to being instantaneous, faster than I can snap my fingers.
But what if it was looking for that one X on that one page, and it had to sort through every single book in the world? There are billions of them, and it would take a computer of today centuries. Probably would be impossible. But a quantum computer, that's where things change completely, because it goes through all of the books and all of the pages all at the same time and finds that X in seconds.
This has a huge ability to enable the Internet of Things to become functional on a daily basis.
Some brand new privacy problems thanks to technology. Go figure. Something that you actually use every day could, again, be spying on your every move.
I have to say, Bose has not responded to this lawsuit yet, but the Connect app licensing agreement does say that it may collect your data. So that information is in there, but it does not specifically mention the collection of the audio files. So the devil really is in the details here.
And that's why we find even like people like Google are using it to sort your information.
The apps on your phone may be eavesdropping on you. A new article in Wired magazine claims that apps have increasingly incorporated ultrasonic tones to track consumers.
Matt and I then logged into the email of a friend who will keep anonymous, and all his whereabouts so far in 2017 popped right up in scary detail. Not only was Matt able to guess a few things about this friend, he guessed right.
I think the interesting thing here is that when you are listening to music, why do you listen to music through headphones? You think it's a private experience. Well, is it really that private now? We're not so sure anymore.
In fact, this is already here. This is already happening. Internet giants are all infusing artificial intelligence in all their products and services. Snapchat uses this to improve advertisement targeting. Apple and its GPS functions, all their products and services are now being enhanced by AI, and it already seems normal to us. It already seems normal because our brain perfectly adapts to our current environment. And in fact, it adapts so well that it makes us blind in terms of how fast this is going.
And to power this with a breakthrough innovation engine modeled after DARPA. Products that recognize we are both mind and body, that our world is both digital and physical.
You know that Google go even further. They want to make us live forever. They consider death as a disease, and they want to make us live forever. This is just the beginning.
What if you could type directly from your brain? It sounds impossible, but it's closer than you may realize. And it's just the kind of fluid human-computer interface needed for AR.
Every day, there is news coverage on the latest advances in AI.
Understanding semantics means that one day you may be able to choose to share your thoughts independent of language.
How would you characterize the level of concern the public should have with respect to their privacy?
DEFCON 5, that I think that we have very little privacy left.
And I think that the sooner the people accept the fact that basically there's no privacy going forward, the safer the society will become. The sooner you realize that whatever you write in your email can be read by motivated others, the sooner that we all realize that being an atheist or being liberal or conservative is something that basically people will know about. Well, they could probably very easily infer it now and definitely would just get easier in the future.
But where we are going today is and I think the place where we're going to feel the greatest and most immediate impact is with money itself.
America stands at a tipping point when it comes to giving up cash.
A new study that shows Europe and the United States are getting closer than ever to going cashless.
And while new technologies like contactless and mobile payments are slowly on the rise in the US,
some economists think that we could see cashless societies emerge in this century. But for now, it seems Americans aren't quite ready to give up their cash.
When we think about the ubiquitous nature of credit cards and debit cards and other banking forms, in fact, it has grown so much that last year, Wells Fargo closed 84 branches. This year, they're going to close 200 bank branches.
Hundreds of Wells Fargo branches are on the chopping block tonight.
Wells Fargo announces plans to shut down more than 400 bank branches by the end of 2018. The company says the acceleration of closures comes as Americans seem to prefer online and mobile banking.
An unmanned convenience store where customers can purchase items without cash or card has opened in Korea.
Time to move on to our Focus report, which takes us to India this Friday.
This is the first unmanned biometrically accessible convenience store in Korea.
Fingerprints and iris scans, and over 1 billion Indians have now received their cards.
Aadhaar aims to provide an identification number to each of India's 1.3 billion people. It also records every individual's fingerprints and iris scans for the government's massive database.
The world we are in is becoming more and more digital. We need new means to ensure this world is safe. Biometrics are key to that new digital world.
The biometric recognition market utilizing fingerprints, veins, irises, and facial features is evolving rapidly. Your face is your access card at this security firm.
And then there's the whole issue of biometrics, which has such promise to it.
Okay, now put the fingers of your right hand.
This is a revolution.
I want to enroll my 3-year-old daughter in school. They told me I can't do it without my Aadhaar card, so I desperately need it.
The government has now made Aadhaar mandatory for availing subsidies on food and fuel, for opening bank accounts, and for getting a mobile phone connection.
And it's something that only today is possible. In other words, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, we looked at these prophecies. 20 years ago, we looked at these prophecies and said, well, this could happen, that could happen, but we don't really know how it would be possible for the entire world to be tied into this economic system.
And I think that everyone here, especially the class of 2016, understands that. You're about to graduate into a complex and borderless world.
The reality is we have been in a one-world economy for a very, very long time. That there are...
Do you believe in aliens?
I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it.
Do you also believe that UFOs have come to Earth?
There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence.
Do you think we'll make contact with alien within the next 50 years?
Well, that's a really tough one to say. I mean, if there are super intelligent aliens out there, they're probably already observing us. That would seem quite likely, and we just are not smart enough to realize it.
Is life unique to our own planet? Or has it gotten a toehold somewhere else in the universe? Are we alone? We're on the verge of actually answering that question.
Earlier this week, the New York Times and Politico revealed the existence of a secret government program to investigate UFO sightings.
It was especially focused on encounters by members of the military, like this one experienced by a U.S. Navy pilot off the coast of California.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west. Oh, big dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is our LNS, dude. Well, if there's like anything, it's rotating.
What we are seeing is something that is not traditional aircraft. It's not a drone. It's not something that we can easily say, oh, that's an airplane or that belongs to this country or that country. In fact, my submission is that what we are looking at is truly, by definition, exotic technologies beyond next generation technologies.
Turns out that the majority of UFO sightings occur along the 37th parallel of the United States. It also turns out that most cattle mutilations are along the 37th parallel. It also turns out that almost all of America's underground military bases are along the 37th parallel of the United States. The Pentagon, Cheyenne Mountain, Fort Knox, all the way over to Area 51. There's a company run by a billionaire named Robert Bigelow. Anyways, this is a real company. Turns out for the past 20 years, they have been investigating UFOs. They're doing this in conjunction with certain government organizations. If you get a copy of an FAA manual that all of our civilian pilots use, and you look through it deep into the writing, what a pilot is supposed to do if they see something in the air, they don't report it to the FAA. They don't report it to their airline because then they will be fired. They report it to Bigelow. Bigelow gets all this information. He sends out paid for teams of investigators who investigate UFOs.
What is it? Carrie, what is that? What is that? Carrie, what is that?
No idea.
Holy crap.
Don't move me. Don't move me.
Ladies and gentlemen, quietly here, please emergency radio requirements for hand carry liquid. Verify no attractive customers and colleagues to apply. Customers traveling from outside.
Well, you may not have heard about this since apparently it's not a big news story somehow, but UFOs turn out to be real. We're not kidding. Recently, the New York Times profiled a secret $22 million Pentagon program that investigated unidentified flying objects. The program wasn't bogus. Investigators found multiple aircraft encounters they could not explain, and they've even been storing metal alloy recovered from the vicinity of these encounters.
In 1947, America's first nuclear base was there. It's called Walker Air Force Base. They started to track something coming through a storm in the middle of the night in July. Whatever that thing was hit by lightning and crashed on a ranch in Roswell. It spread metallic debris over 300 yards of this ranch. The metallic debris was covered in weird hieroglyphics. It was made of a material that people couldn't identify. The rancher sees all this crap on his lawn. He calls up the sheriff. The sheriff calls the Air Force Base. They send out a team. The team gathers up the debris and then puts out a press release. The press release from the U.S. Air Force says, we now have in our possession a flying saucer. This is true. 2 hours later, they rescind their press release. They gather up all the material. They go inch by inch and gather it all up. They put it on a plane. First, they land in Dallas, where they stage a photograph with a radar operator sitting amongst the debris of a broken weather balloon. Now, everyone who was involved in that photograph has since come forward and said it was fake. The person who took the photograph, the person in the photograph, and the person who ordered the photograph. Anyways, the debris was then carted to Area 51, where it is to this day.
So I guess what bothers me most about this story is how clearly people who should have been following up and paying attention haven't been. And the case that sticks with me, November 7th, I think, 2006, at Chicago O'Hare Airport, 4:15 in the afternoon, gate C-25, I believe, the pilot of the plane waiting to depart to Charlotte looks up and there is a saucer hovering not that far over the plane. People in the tower see it, other pilots see it, dozens of people see it. It's real, and the FAA refuses to investigate. How could that be?
He told us this is where his grandparents had a close encounter with a UFO.
It really sped up and came right into their face and filled up the entire windshield of the car. And it took off at a right angle and shot off into the distance.
That story sparked his obsession and explains the alien looking out from the side of Bigelow Aerospace.
We start looking around, and both airplanes see a disturbance in the water and a white 40-foot long tic-tac shaped object just hovering above the water, going forward, back, left, right. There's no rotor wash, there's no wings, nothing. So as we drive around in a clockwise flow, we get to about the 9 o'clock position, and I said, well, I'm going to go down and check it out, and the other jet is going to stay high. So as we go down, when we get to the 12 o'clock position, it starts to mirror us. So it's in a clockwise flow, and it's on the opposite side of the circle from us. And we continue this. It's in a climb, we're in a descent, we're getting a great look at it. This whole thing takes about probably up to 5 minutes from the time we show up. I get over to the 8 o'clock position, it's at about the 2 o'clock position, and I decide I'm gonna go and see what it is, and it's about 2,000 feet below me. And I cut across the circle, and as I get within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerates to the south in about 2 seconds and disappears.
What would you estimate the speed?
Oh, well above supersonic. It like a bullet out of a gun, it took off.
We just asked you point blank the question, do you believe that life from somewhere else, while you ran this program, came here, visited, observed?
I will tell you unequivocally that through the observation, scientific methodologies that were applied to look at this phenomena, that these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of.
So I know you're being clear, but I mean, the answer is yes.
I can't speak on behalf of the government. Obviously, I'm not in the U.S. government anymore. My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone, whatever that means.
Do you imagine that in our space travels we will encounter other forms of intelligent life?
You don't have to go anywhere.
You can find it here.
Yeah.
Where exactly?
It's just like right under people's noses. Oh my gosh. Wow.
You're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
Well, you can't spend a lot of time on the phone, so give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Aren't.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Really distinguish between what's natural and what's artificial.
Inside our own heads is the most complex arrangement of matter in the known universe.
You might ask yourself, can we get to be superhumans?
The original Industrial Revolution was driven by the discovery that you could use steam engines to do all kinds of interesting things.
But that was followed by additional revolutions for electricity and computers and communications technology. We're now in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, which is bringing together digital, physical, and biological systems.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
with the ability to visualize brain activity, for example, through a simple consumer-based EEG device, it gives us access to ourselves in ways that we've never before thought possible. It unlocks the black box that is the brain and enables us to really, truly be able to realize an identity that is aspirational.
There's now a scientific foundation for the effects of mindfulness on the brain, on the genome, on biological aging. And when the human mind does know itself, then you get the potential for a new renaissance that restructures itself in terms of our relationship to life, our relationship to the planet, our relationship to work.
We need a different economic model. And by that, I don't mean capitalism versus communism. What I'm talking about is a shift in the system along the lines of the two big changes that happened in the 20th century, Keynesianism, with a much greater focus on health and education and the role of government working with business, and then a reaction against that in late century to neoliberalism, where the focus was on free markets, freedom of the individual, and getting governments out of the way. We need a shift to a new system that will allow us to meet the basic needs of every human on the planet, that will live within planetary means, that will be fairer, and that will be focused as its key goal, not on growth per se, but on maximizing human well-being. And history tells us that a values shift is triggered by creation of a new story about how we want to live.
I see the circular economy as something which fits very closely with mankind's goal to be innovative and creative and to always progress. We can use asset tracking, we can use IT, we can use 3D printing to enable this different economic model to recover materials, feed them back into the economy, and really to decouple growth from the resource constraints we have.
The reason we live in cities is not different today than it was 10,000 years ago. Even if we have got networks connecting us, we still want to have places where we meet in person. So this means the place where we work and the place where we live are much closer to each other, a city where we don't need to have big supply chains in order to produce things, where many things can be sourced locally thanks to 3D printing and robotics. So if we're able to do something to transform cities, to make them more efficient, then the impact can be huge.
Think about the prospect of getting rid of plastics. We must not only be inspired or informed by nature, but actually use natural organisms with which to design products and building parts. Only instead of varying material properties, we're varying biological functionality.
Design is critical today because it's the first signal of human intention. So the question of adding quality to quantity, it isn't a matter of simply circulating things that are potentially toxic. It's circulating things that are safe and healthy for all generations. So the goal is no longer, I want to be less bad, less monotonous, less unsafe, less unjust. It's really about a diverse, safe, healthy, and just world with clean air, clean water, clean soil, clean energy.
Together we are fighting to preserve our fragile climate from irreversible damage and devastation of unthinkable proportions.
If we think about the original Industrial Revolution, it was an energy revolution. I like to think of it as a kind of bookending of a period in human history during which we used fossil fuels, and it worked very well for us for a long time. But now we have to bring that to an end. We have energy technologies that can power our civilization: solar, wind, biomass. So then the question is, well, how do we get grid integration? Maybe the wind is blowing in Denmark, the sun is shining in Germany, and now you can move that electricity through an integrated grid. You can supply energy to everyone who needs it, and you can supply energy at all times.
Walking around, you do see different stuff. As far as like the body marriage line, they use a lot of things that help them lift up and move things to the car. You just sit there and, you know, program something, and it has its own set mind to go ahead and do everything. And then as humans, we just come in and take the extra step to help the technology.
It's not the cure-all for everything. There's definitely a lot of things where people perform the operation better, but certainly for the right applications, robotics are a huge improvement for the process.
The prediction of 5 million jobs lost by 2020 to technology is serious, but it's not the main question. Construction, manufacturing, services, public health and education, these industries will still exist. The main question is, what will be the future of work? How will we define work? How will we share the wealth?
From the viewpoint of the labor or jobs, now we really need new education or new training.
We're working with a World in Motion in FIRST Robotics, trying to encourage students from 3rd grade all the way up through the end of high school. We had students make sailboats, and then we had them race them, and so they could see how quickly they could move. And they immediately went back and started to say, oh, I saw what happened, I'm going to go change this or that. And that was 3rd graders.
I just given a prize to a kid of 18 years old that has discovered something really very, very unique. Came up with how to get better productivity and better yields for seeds of corn. And so he basically came with the idea that if you would perforate these seeds, you would get more food. And you think about it and say, but he didn't go to university. So how does he get all that knowledge? And he told me, I mean, I've been watching YouTube since the age of 12, and I'm so interested that I've seen everything about it. I've read everything about it. The world is really open to learning. The thing is, how do you give the incentive to your kids to do that?
It's this ability of digital technology to change outcomes, to truly empower people all over the world that can create a more equitable growth, because I think the world needs that.
Fourth industrial revolution has the potential to make inequalities visible and to make them less acceptable in the future, and hopefully to gather and garner political support to take the necessary decision to reduce the gap.
Humans have always been using tools, but because of the recent advances in technology, we're beginning to have machines that can augment us in all sorts of interesting ways.
I was the first person in the world to be able to voluntarily move my legs while stepping in a robot by exciting the nervous system using electrical stimulators directly onto the spine. We believe that a cure will be possible if enough of the right people have the will to fast-track a cure for paralysis.
We take two things from the patient. First, we take a three-dimensional X-ray, and we extract the three-dimensional data out of that so we can make a perfectly shaped puzzle piece. And then we also take a sample of fat tissue from the patient so that we can extract the stem cells out of those. And we use those stem cells with this three-dimensional scaffold that we fabricate, and after 3 weeks, we have a piece of living bone that's ready for implantation.
Being able to use genome editing to understand the genetic changes that lead to cancer, and technologies like drug delivery, getting molecules into particular types of cells. There's a lot of excitement about being able to move much more quickly on this disease.
One of the things that I think is so essential to free and open societies is freedom of thought. And up until now, the conversation we've been having is around freedom of speech. Once we can access people's thoughts and access people's emotion, we have to create a space that enables people to think freely, to think divergent thoughts, to think creative thoughts. And in a society where people fear having those thoughts, the likelihood of being able to enjoy progress is significantly diminished.
We need to take responsibility at every level of society, from the individual and the personal to the institutional to the global, to adapt to these technological challenges and changes which are redefining what it means to be human, what it means to work, what it means to be completely embedded in this world.
People always ask me if I'm an optimist or a pessimist. The technology exists, but how do we get it and implement it at the scale we need at a price that people around the world can afford?
Even though we have everyday problems we have to solve, we have to find a way to lay the foundations for the innovations of tomorrow.
I'm sure people have told you to make sure you have something to fall back on. Make sure you got something to fall back on, honey. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. Fall forward. This is what I mean. Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in the history of baseball, but you don't hear about the strikeouts. People remember the home runs. Fall forward. Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Because the 1,001st was the light bulb. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks, and I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but I want to talk to you about why that's so important. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. I'll say it again. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. Les Brown's a motivational speaker. He made an analogy about this. He says, imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfulfilled potential. The ghost of the ideas you never acted on. The ghost of the talents you didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They say, we came to you because you could have brought us to life, they say. And now we have to go to the grave together. So I ask you today, how many ghosts are going to be around your bed at your time? Some of you have money. Some of you have patience. Some of you have kindness. Some of you have love. Some of you have the gift of long suffering. Whatever it is, whatever your gift is, what are you going to do with what you have? While it may be frightening, it will also be rewarding. Because the chances you take, the people you meet, the people you love, the faith that you have, that's what's going to define you. Never be discouraged. Never hold back. Give everything you got. And when you fall throughout life, remember this. Fall forward. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to do. I didn't always stick with him, but he always stuck with me. So stick with him in everything you do. If you think you want to do what you think I've done, then do what I've done. And stick with God. Number 2, fail big. That's right. Fail big. Today's the beginning of the rest of your life, and it can be very frightening. It's a new world out there. It's a mean world out there, and you only live once. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances professionally. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test, was 9 dots, and you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 9 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. So don't be afraid to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. So have dreams, but have goals. Life goals, yearly goals, monthly goals, daily goals. I try to give myself a goal every day. Sometimes it's just to not curse somebody out. Simple goals, but have goals. And understand that to achieve these goals, you must apply discipline and consistency. In order to achieve your goals, you must apply discipline, which you have already done, and consistency every day, not just on Tuesday and miss a few days. You have to work at it every day. You have to plan every day. You've heard the saying, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. Hard work works. Working really hard is what successful people do. And in this text, tweet, twerk world that you've grown up in, remember, just because you're doing a lot more doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done. Remember that. Just because you're doing a lot more doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done. Don't confuse movement with progress. My mother told me, she said, yeah, because you can run in place all the time and never get anywhere. So continue to strive, continue to have goals, continue to progress. Number 3, you'll never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. I'll say it again. You'll never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. I don't care how much money you make, you can't take it with you. And it's not how much you have, it's what you do with what you have. We all have different talents. Some of you will be doctors, some lawyers, some scientists, some educators, some nurses, some teachers. Yeah, okay. Some preachers. The most selfish thing you can do in this world is help someone else. Why is it selfish? Because the gratification, the goodness that comes to you, the good feeling that I get from helping others, nothing's better than that. Not jewelry, not big house I have, not the cars, but it's the joy. That's where the joy is, in helping others. That's where the success is. Finally, I pray that you put your slippers way under the bed tonight, so that when you wake up in the morning, you have to get on your knees to reach them. And while you're down there, say thank you for grace. Thank you for mercy. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for wisdom. Thank you for parents. Thank you for love. Thank you for kindness. Thank you for humility. Thank you for peace. Thank you for prosperity. Say thank you in advance for what's already yours. That's how I live my life. That's why I am, one of the reasons why I am today. Say thank you in advance for what is already yours. True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you, sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours already. I'll say it again. True desire in the heart, that itch that you have, whatever you want to do, that thing that you want to do to help others and to grow and to make money, that desire, that itch, that's God's proof to you, sent beforehand already to indicate that it's yours. And anything you want good, you can have. So claim it. Work hard to get it.
We thank you for watching this video and ask you to spread the news. Put this video on your social network or link to it so that you can be part of the anonymous movement. Together we are strong. Together we are anonymous.